What is going on, everyone? This is Drew Code Sports Talk, and I am your host, Andrew Wright. And over in Clovis, California, is my co-host, Cody Johnson. Cody.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am with the voice of the Hornets tonight, you guys, and his lazy boy. So what up?
That's right.
We got a great episode for you guys tonight. We're talking Raiders. We're talking Thursday Night Football that just ended. We're also talking about NFL Week 1 and looking ahead at Week 2. And we got some Giants drama to talk about. So cannot wait. We're going to get started in just a second. But before we do, don't forget to subscribe, download, rate, review the podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media and all that great stuff. So with that being said, you guys, let's get started.
Take off from a break off from the weak minds. They can stay soft. You can change lives. You create thoughts. Never waste time. You got one shot. You got one life. Better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5. No mean boss. Just my life and free thoughts.
All right. Well, yes, we are back. It is after we just saw Week 1 of the NFL, and now we are in Week 2. College football is in full swing. Baseball postseason is starting to shape up a little bit, so a lot of good stuff is going on in sports right now. NBA is starting to look like it's coming together pretty quickly here, so a lot of sports that is going on. But before we get into all of those sports talks, Cody, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, man. Just, hanging out, getting ready for the show. I watched Thursday Night Football tonight, so it's actually a really good game with some division rivals. So I hate to say some positive things about them, of course, but it was a good game ultimately. But doing pretty well. It's been a hectic week, as you and I have been poloing about it back and forth. And
yeah,
thankfully we're here doing this, talking sports, which is almost the best time of the week to do it. So how are you doing, man? How was softball tonight?
It was very good. We won our game, so very, very excited about that. I had a good hitting day, so I'll take that any day of the week. My wife had to play, and she got a hit, and so, yeah, all good stuff, man.
Right on. And also, too, congratulations on becoming the voice of the Hornets. I know that, you're telling me you're uncomfortable with that, but I just found it pretty cool that this new local high school, you're their voice of their sports for now, and you actually got to call their first touchdown. So for you to continue that, I think it's pretty cool.
Yes. That was really cool. I'm very excited. And tomorrow they have a game against Hoover High School, which I'm very excited about. It's funny because when I go to work, I work right by Hoover High School. And I'm going to be doing the game for Sanger West. So it'll be kind of like two worlds colliding in that one. So that'll be a fun game. Hoover is usually not a powerhouse, but they're not a slouch of a team. They usually get some good athletes. So I'm really looking forward to watching Clovis West because they had a bye week this past week. And but the week before that, they played another high school that's actually a startup high school as well. Mm-hmm. And they scored their most points. I mean, they scored 24. I mean, they still lost by 30. So I will say that. I will preface it by that. But they are getting better each and every week. And so I'm very excited to see how they're going to play this week. So, if you're in the Fresno area, in the Sanger area, definitely go check out Sanger West. They are playing at Tom Flores Stadium at 7:30. That's varsity. And for JV, it'll be at 5 o'clock. So definitely go check them out. And you will hear me all throughout both games. So very excited about that.
Very cool, man. Well, congrats on that. How's everything with you been going, though, other than that?
Absolutely horrible. Everyone has gotten sick here. I am still kind of sick. So I might go I don't know, a 0 dark 30 here in a couple of minutes, hacking my lungs off. You might see me on live on the video here, me just absolutely coughing or sneezing, or sorry if I sniffle. So I'm just going to say that and preface everything that I'm going to say or talk about. If you hear me sniffle, if you hear me cough, I'm very sorry, but I am trying to get over a cold. So, I can only do what I can do.
Yeah, well, over at my in-laws' house, they got hit with COVID pretty bad. So,
oh no,
yeah, they've been, I think, dealing with it since Thursday of last week now. So it's been about a week. So yesterday I had to leave work early, of course, to pick up the kids from school. I did a little grocery shopping for them because they needed some supplies. So I did that. And it was kind of funny because I was texting my mother-in-law and I was asking what they needed. The first list is like 1 or 2 items. We just need milk and bread. Okay, great. Text them. Do you need anything else? Yeah. Can you get cough drops? Okay, got that. Okay, what else do you guys need? Oh, I think that's it. Oh no, wait. Dad, my father-in-law, wants to know if you can get some chips too. Okay, great. What flavor? Any flavor except for this, and this. I'm like, okay, well. So before you know it, it's like a couple of handfuls of grocery bags and dropping them off because they haven't been able to leave the house for over a week, and it's the least that we can do because they do a lot for us and my kids. So we've been dealing with that, but we've been getting some encouraging news that they're feeling better and they're all vaccinated, so at least they're on the other side of it. But it's just been a hectic week and making sure that they're okay and all that stuff, man.
Yeah, good stuff. It's crazy that we're still going through that, but it is what it is. So got to deal with it, I guess. All right. Well, enough about us. Let's talk about sports. Cody, we just saw the first week 2 game, and it was between the Chargers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs ended up on top 27-24. A couple of stats for everyone if you haven't seen the game. Justin Herbert threw for 334 yards and 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Took 2 sacks. Patrick Mahomes threw for 235 and 2 touchdowns, no picks, and was sacked once. Leading rusher was Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 74 yards. Leading receiver was Mike Williams with 8 catches, 113 yards, and he caught a touchdown. So, Cody, with all of that, you saw a majority of the game. I wasn't able to see. I was, busy playing, actually balling at softball. But what are some takeaways that you took from this game so far?
So my takeaways are that the Chiefs, their offense took a little bit longer than usual to get going. Patrick Mahomes looked uncomfortable for a majority of the game. The Chargers pressure defense really, stepped up, of course, as it's been doing this season, as we saw against our Raiders. But Patrick Mahomes was a little uncomfortable for a majority of the game. There was, I think, one play that kind of gave a little bit of relief to the Chiefs because you can tell Patrick Mahomes had been uncomfortable. Patrick Mahomes basically did a 50-yard strike to receiver Watson. He beat J.C. Jackson kind of on a double move that was kind of like a long slant. And, Mahomes delivered it right on the money, and it kind of gave some relief to the Chiefs because they had really no momentum going. They had no rhythm in their offense. Their run game was pretty much non-existent for the majority of the first half. Patrick Mahomes did, settle down a little bit, and you can kind of tell that, the Chiefs did need like a big play from like a big play receiver, which Hill would have done for them probably. But it was just a collection of just teamwork. It was really what I got out of it. And on the Chargers side, their defense is electric. It's really good. Their coverage defense is really good. Asante Samuels Jr. is legit. In my opinion, he's probably the Chargers' #1 corner out instead of J.C. Jackson, in my opinion. He did a really good job of disturbing Mahomes in the passing game, really cutting off some passes. I think he almost had an interception, but it barely hit the ground where it got called back. And this defense looked really, really good. They were pressuring. Towards the second half, though, the Chargers, the pressure was getting to to Herbert. He got sacked a couple of times, and then there was actually wasn't a sack, but he threw the ball away, and I think the DB tackled Herbert, and his shoulder went into his rib, and you can tell it really made some discomfort. Herbert kind of played through that, and towards the end, the Chiefs finally put it away. But it was a good game overall. I think there were some mistakes on both sides, but I think what we learned about the Chiefs is when they went against Arizona, their offense was a lot more freeing. When they went against a tougher defense, it was a little bit more. They shortened the field. The Chargers did to the Chiefs, so the Chiefs again had to really be patient. And then the Chargers just, their offense kind of got stagnant. You can tell that they needed Keenan Allen. Mike Williams was great in the first half, and then kind of in the second half, he kind of tailed off after he got his touchdown. Austin Eckler was okay. The run game was really abandoned kind of early on. But, the Chargers lost to, on the scoreboard, a better team. But I think both teams have a lot to go from it. But they both were very, very good. It's a really tough division, and it was a good divisional game. But, I think what was the most surprising is the Chiefs defense actually stood tall and was able to get, Herbert off the field. And when the Chargers offense wasn't moving so much, the Chiefs were able to get some opportunities back and close out the game. So that was kind of some of my bigger takeaways and what I thought of the game per se. And it's a very good division. I got to say these two teams look like top 4 teams in the AFC. So.
Yeah. Listen, I watched about the first quarter, majority of the first quarter. And Justin Herbert looked a little uncomfortable, but as did Patrick Mahomes. There was a lot of, safe throws, I guess is what I would really say. Austin Eckler, 14 carries, only 39 rushing yards. Well, to be perfectly honest, that's not winning football. And the Raiders kind of did that to the Chargers, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but they kind of shut down the running game. And I'm not saying that they didn't have some successes, but overall, from what I'm looking at and what I had seen, the Chargers really couldn't get a push. So I believe that they did upgrade their offensive line, but I think they upgraded their pass pro. As far as the run blocking, it's still not looking like it's there. Now, we're in week 2. Let's not overreact on all of this. And I know you had said earlier that, Justin Herbert, he took a pretty wild hit.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully he's okay for fantasy owners, for AFC West, division rivals. We're kind of hoping maybe he might be benched for a few weeks. I don't know. No, I hope he is okay. He is a great quarterback, of course, and he's great for the game. But we'll see. That could be huge. That could be potentially huge.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a Chargers fan, you're probably holding your breath right now. And I did just want to bring up someone who I think is an unsung hero that I have been watching the last 2 weeks. And ironically, I do have him in one of my fantasy leagues, so I kind of know him. But Gerald Everett, the tight end for the Chargers, he's been kind of a go-to guy. When Keenan Allen went out in week 1 against the Raiders, he kind of looked more towards Everett. If you are a defense scheming for the Chargers, you are going to have to put respect on Gerald Everett, because it looks like he's doing some great things with Justin Herbert. And he was the second leading catcher for the Chargers today. I'm sorry, he was the third leading catcher. I forgot that Austin Eckler had 9 catches. So, as a fantasy owner, again, Austin Eckler, he had a good fantasy day. But in terms of just strictly a running back in football, Austin Eckler didn't have the greatest of days. Yes, he had 9 catches. Yes, he had 55 yards. He had a big 21-yarder. Okay, I get all of that. 10 targets towards Eckler. But his running, they need him to be at least somewhat efficient on the run game. And that would be my concern, because now if you lose Justin Herbert and now you don't have your run game, that is a lot of missing pieces for your offense. So I would be a little worried about that. But huge for Kansas City to be 2-0 to start off the year. I, on the other hand, thought that if they were going to go 2-0, this would be the way, because Arizona, I had the Chiefs beating Arizona this year, and then I had the Chiefs winning at home against the Chargers. Andy Reid is one of the best coaches. And, Brandon Stanley on the Chargers head coach, he's a second-year guy. So I'm on Thursday nights, I'm going to go with the experienced coach, and I usually like to go for the home teams. In this case, it was no different. So, but kudos on the win for the Chiefs, even though it seemed like Mahomes was pressured constantly, and he somehow got out of it and got a win. And it's crazy how we were talking so much of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, all these quarterbacks this year, Russell Wilson, and we kind of somehow forgot that Patrick Mahomes is still freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, good for the Chiefs there. But it was a good game. I mean, 3-point difference. I mean, defense was involved, offense was involved. Can't ask for anything else.
Yeah, I mean, there was just one mistake by Herbert, but it wasn't really necessarily. I mean, Herbert threw it right to the defender, but Gerald Everett, actually, who you're referring to, you can tell he was just gassed. This hurry-up offense is very exhausting, and it looks like he's a player that, is not used to it, of course, and it's understandable. This offense is pretty unique in itself, and he was supposed to do a comeback route, and he kind of, I don't want to say gave up on it, but he turned around and the DB was kind of hiding right behind him. Herbert saw Everett, threw it right to him, and then DB took off for 99-yard interception, turned to pick 6. And it was probably really the only mistakes that Herbert made the whole game, but it actually turned the momentum around because obviously it propelled the lead a little bit more for the Chiefs. And one of the things that the Chiefs did that the Chargers didn't really do is, yes, they tried to get Eckler going and Sony Michel at some points, but the Chiefs made it a point to get their running backs involved and shorten the field. Like, the Chargers took away the deep balls, so, Hardman and MVS couldn't get going. And so they made, the Chiefs go dink and dive, and they did that. They did a little bit more running. They got all of their running backs involved and kept getting them involved to where even though they would have a rush with Clyde Edwards, he'd have a nice little burst. McKinney would get a little bit of a carry, but they also made it a point to get them involved in a screen game. So it was kind of a pass play, but it was designated as a run play, it looked like. And they just kept more of a balanced offense than the Chargers. Herbert, threw, I think, it 40-something times, 300 and something, yards, but they didn't really honor the balance of the run, which I think was a little bit pivotal. And then that, too, though, is because they were playing from behind, so I'll give them that. But, to your credit, Drew, with them not getting Austin Eckler involved, or at least, their pass protection is really good. It's just for some reason they're not really committed to the run as they were last year. And you can tell, like, in this game, it would have been better off if they were balanced. I think it would have helped out a lot because the Chiefs remained balanced in a sense, but the Chargers just, you can tell, just were one-dimensional. And I think part of it is the reason why the Chiefs were able to kind of contain Mike Williams after a little bit. And they, try to, let Palmer get the ball and let him try to do something. He's not going to beat them. Go ahead and let DeAndre Carter get the ball. He's not going to really do much, but take out, Eckler, take out Williams, and then try to beat us elsewhere. And that's pretty much what the game plan was.
All right. Well, let's talk about the week 1 victory that the Chargers had, and that was against our Las Vegas Raiders. Let's start with this. Cody, we got about 12 minutes before we need to move on. So just giving you that heads up.
All right.
No, that's mainly for me. Anyway, main takeaways from the game.
You can tell Carr basically was trying, I don't want to say trying to do hero ball, but I think he took some chances and the pressure got to him. So I think that made his decision-making a little bit questionable. There was 2 underthrown balls that, had he put a little bit more on it, wouldn't have gotten picked off, maybe incomplete. The Raiders did try to make a comeback towards the end and almost got there. But I think, you commit, 5 turnovers total, and then you try to claw your way back in the game, which is really tough. I felt like we played really good. I was really encouraged by our defense and our secondary, all things considered. Even though we gave up a lot of those turnovers, our defense was able to kind of, not give up anything more than a second half touchdown. And that was it for the rest of the game. But, we beat ourselves. Our offense looks really good. I'd like to see Carr spread the ball around a little bit more, which I was surprised that he didn't. I get it that he wanted to get, Devontae Adams involved, which I was happy for. But, I mean, he had an overwhelming 17 targets, and he had more than half of Derek Carr's completions, which is not a bad thing. It's just, we have other weapons that we could utilize, such as Waller, Winfro, maybe some of the other receivers, maybe using some of our running backs in the screen game, maybe the run game, which kind of came to life in the second half, but we just didn't have any of it in the first half. So those were my main takeaways. I'm encouraged though that we will bounce back in week 2, but we're able to compete as long as we don't beat ourselves. And I think that was my main takeaway.
Yeah, I think a lot of things I agree with you. The offensive line was a big takeaway for me. That was an issue. I've seen some people who are saying, Carr should have stayed in the pocket. Listen, Khalil Mack, for the most part, was beating whoever was on him.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter if it were Colton Miller, who arguably is our best offensive lineman, or anyone else. I mean, Khalil Mack was a beast. And that's why Raider fans didn't want to get rid of Khalil Mack in the first place. This is the reason. He is a game wrecker, and he absolutely wrecked that game. Now, do I think it helped that Joey Bosa was on the other side? Yeah, but I would say Khalil Mack was overall the best player on that defense in that game. Asante Samuel Jr., though, he was quite a beast there too. So, talking about Carr's 3 picks, I mean, listen, he underthrew a couple of them. One of them was just a great play by a linebacker, and it was Carr's fault as well for not seeing him. The underthrow to Devontae Adams towards the end zone. It looked like Adams was looking for a flag. It wasn't a flag. I mean, it was a pick. Yeah. Underthrown. I have no problem with the ref swallowing his whistle on that one and letting that go, because to me it's not a PI. So I will gladly admit that. But listen, Carr was trying to make it a statement to go to Devontae Adams throughout the whole game, show you, hey, I can get the ball to Adams however I want. And for the most part, I think he did. Again, he had the one pick, and I'll live with that. It wasn't that bad to me, because where they ended up starting the ball at, I didn't have that big of an issue. You throw a pick, make it where it's not an easy way for the Chargers to score a touchdown or get, at least a field goal. So, as much as I don't want to see interceptions, listen, the offensive line was bad. I think Carr's, internal clock was quicker. And so I think he was just trying to force a lot of things, not seeing the field very well. And listen, he didn't play all preseason. So this is kind of his preseason. So I'm not going to be the least bit surprised if it takes Carr, 3 games to really get into the groove of the game. So again, we're literally on week 2 now. I'm not going to panic about, the Derek Carrs, the offensive line. Listen, we've already been depleted on offensive line. We didn't really start any of our starters in the preseason on the offensive line. So listen, they're all still learning. I would have liked to have gone Hunter Renfrow a little bit more. Josh Jacobs, really, can I be frank? The Chargers could not stop Josh Jacobs. Yeah. They could not stop him. But because we were playing from behind majority of the game, we really couldn't go to him as often as we wanted to. So that was encouraging that Jacobs was looking like that, man. He was looking real good. So, that was encouraging, especially if you're looking at offensive line issues. I think that was encouraging for your offensive line is, hey, at least our running game is going. So we have one of the 2 things that we need to get done. Let's get the second one a little short up. So I'm not going to panic yet, but I was also another main takeaway that I had was there was no pass rush on Justin Herbert. I mean, Crosby, I think he had a couple of quarterback pressures. I don't remember seeing Chandler Jones, and that was a little discouraging because, we signed him to a big contract. We're paying him good money. Raiders fans were really excited to see him, and pretty much we didn't see him that whole game. So, would like to see more. But anyway, I was encouraged, and I don't know. I wasn't depressed. Of course, I was upset that we lost, but I was a little down on the offensive line and no pass rush. But again, it's week 1. I'm not going to panic yet. If we're in week week 7, week 8, and our offensive line and defensive line is still looking like that, then I'm going to start being a little concerned. But for right now, I'm going to stay calm. There was a lot of encouraging things. Listen, we were still in the game. We shouldn't have been in the game. And the penalties were way down for us, which I don't remember having a game like that for the Raiders in a long time with hardly any penalties. So a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. But you know what? You're going to build on the bad things. It's a long season. I was encouraged. I have no issue with the way we lost.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Cody. So did you want to go to a break, or did you want to talk about the upcoming game first?
Let's talk about the upcoming game, and then we can break after.
Okay. So let's kind of go a little quick here. The Cardinals are the next team that the Raiders are facing. This is in Vegas. Cardinals just got brutally humiliated by the Kansas City Chiefs. So what are you looking forward to in this game? Do you see the Raiders winning? Do you see the potential of the Raiders going 0-2? I mean, what are you thinking here?
No, I think that this is a good opportunity for the Raiders to get back on the right track. I mean, even if we lose to the Chargers at home, which is not a surprise. I mean, I think that it's either there or we, take one at our home arena. I think this Arizona game will be a game that gets us on track, gets us that confidence to win. I'm not very high in Arizona. I don't think that anybody else should be. They didn't play very well against the Chiefs. I know it was the Chiefs and their offense was high-powered, but for a team that's supposedly a threat in the NFC, they sure did not put up much of a resistance, nor did they look like they were prepared to play football that day, which that's another thing that I have, which is why I don't even think Arizona is going to make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be a good season for them in general. I do see that this is like a bounce back game for the Raiders. Like I said, get them on track, get them their confidence, maybe start a winning streak going on, because I think they have some more favorable matchups in the next few weeks following this game. So it would be a really nice to get some momentum, get the confidence up to when we play some better competition. Then we'll be up for that, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of see where our offensive line is at, to make those adjustments, make sure that our defense is still running all cylinders, get that pass rush going, and of course get our offense more in sync with more ball movement, in my opinion. So I looked at this game as an opportunity for the Raiders to get a win and get on track and start getting on a hot streak here.
Yeah. The only issue I have is this. Typically when teams get blown out like the Cardinals did, they come back week 2 and it's usually almost a gimme that they're going to cover the spread, if not just outright win. So I'm a little concerned for the Raiders, but luckily the Raiders actually lost last week. So they're not riding on a high. They're like, hey, we got to win. So they got to be focused. So I do think that this is going to be a really interesting game. I think this is a very underrated game. First, Kyler Murray has to prove himself. He just got signed to a big contract, and after week 1, he did not prove that he earned that contract.
100% right.
The last 2 games that we've seen Kyler Murray in have been, to put it mildly, crap. They've been really bad.
Yeah.
So he's really going to have to prove himself. And Derek Carr, as much as you and I have been on here and we support Derek Carr, he didn't look great. And so he's going to have a bounce back game. I don't think he won't. I think this will be a game that he can get back on track on. This Cardinals defense doesn't look great. They do have a really good safety duo, but their secondary overall I don't think is that great. The linebacking core leaves a lot to the imagination. And the defensive line is not what it used to be when Chandler Jones was there. That's another thing that I did want to bring up, is this is kind of a I'm going to beat you game for Chandler Jones. He's going back to his old team who kind of disrespected him and said, hey, we're going to let you walk. We have no problem with you walking.
Yeah.
And I think Chandler Jones really took a lot of felt very disrespected from that. So this will be an interesting game. I think there could be a lot of good things in this game for the Raiders. I think there could be some good things for the Cardinals, though. So I'm not going to be the least bit surprised if this is a really close game, and it's not going to make me think that the Raiders should have dominated the Cardinals, because I think, like I said, in the NFL, it's a funny league. And when you have got the team that gets blown out in the week previous, they come back and they come out strong. So this is a game that the Raiders could potentially lose, and I'm still not going to overly panic about that.
Agreed.
All right, Cody, let's take a break, and when we come back, we have NFL Week 1 storylines. We still have our MLB questions. Still lots to get to, so stay tuned. All right, so we kind of talked about already a Week 1 game, which was we were talking about the Raiders and Chargers. Let's talk about some of the other games in the NFL. As much as Cody, you and I, we have been we love talking about.
Talking about the Raiders. We're gonna do some NFL storylines here because you and I were texting like crazy. All day on Sunday about some of the games that were going on. And in our Fresno area, we were watching, I think the 10 o'clock games were Bengals and Steelers and 49ers and the Bears in the tsunami that they played in. And so it was kind of good to get some texting in there and see that. So going over some brief storylines, Drew, I'm going to ask you about the Steelers and the Bengals. Steelers defense looked really good, but was it more about the defense or Joe Burrow?
Okay, first of all, I'm very surprised you put Steelers looked elite because they still almost lost that game. Listen, the Steelers defense looked good. A lot of that was TJ Watt. Mm-hmm. I watched a lot of that game, and a lot of the momentum was going because of TJ Watt putting pressure on Joe Burrow. Now, the secondary was great too, so I will give them their props. But TJ Watt now looks like he's going to be out for multiple weeks. That is a little concerning for me. And listen, Joe Burrow got over he had surgery on his appendix this offseason. So he is another quarterback that did not see any type of preseason at all. So it's week 1. I do not panic on this stuff. I know as fantasy football has grown, everyone panics on week 1. It's not that big of a deal. All right. Joe Burrow, what I was immensely impressed with Joe Burrow is he threw 4 picks and then just kept coming at the Steelers. Just kept coming, and he finally got what he needed to get, which was a couple of touchdowns. And he gave the Bengals chances to win, and unfortunately, the kicking situation in week 1 was just absolutely bizarre. Mm-hmm. I would use the word asinine, because it was just incredibly bad. I was so blown away by how the kicking looked just throughout the NFL. It was crazy. But listen, I think Joe Burrow is fine. He just needed to get some reps. He got hit a lot. That Bengals offensive line, who we've been told that they have upgraded, which by all means they did, but they did not look great. Again, it is week 1. They're still a new unit. I'm sure they'll get better towards the end of the year. And that's when you want it to be really good, is towards the end of the year where, everyone else is kind of getting a little weaker. So we'll see, but I'm not too panicked about the Bengals yet. I think Joe Burrow was fine. And to be perfectly, he had some really bad throws, but overall he came back. He did what you want in a quarterback. You want the quarterback to have short-term memory loss. He throws a pick, he comes right back out, doesn't even remember that he threw a pick, that he's just going to keep going at what he's supposed to do. It's exactly what he did. And like I said, he gave a million chances for the Bengals to win, and unfortunately they couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, I think that the Steelers defense is very good. I agree, losing TJ Watt is a huge blow to that defense. But in the secondary and the safeties, in the cornerbacks, that's where they were actually very, very good as well. They were getting to the passes. They were deflecting them. They were stopping the receivers' routes. I think they made it really difficult for Joe Burrow. I agree, though, the no preseason, I think, did affect him. And obviously the surgery, I think there was a report that he lost like 20 pounds of weight post-surgery. And so he hadn't even practiced fully. He didn't do any preseason. He hadn't really conditioned very much, only because of his situation. So, good on him for being so resilient, playing 5 quarters of football and nearly, coming back from behind after what they did. But I do think that the Steelers defense is something to be reckoned with. Now their offense, on the other hand, that's another discussion for another time. I mean, I think the Bengals offensive line is something that's worrisome considering their first game together. It looked exactly like it did in the playoffs where Joe Burrow was getting sacked like crazy. But, I am really actually encouraged that Joe Burrow showed that much poise to still remain into the game, being a factor. I mean, he drove his team down to the end and, threw a great touchdown pass to Jamar Chase to basically give them the tie before their kicker couldn't seal it on the extra point. But, for the most part, I'm encouraged by Joe Burrow. But, I think that the Steelers defense is going to be a big story for that team throughout the season, even without Watt, I think, in my opinion. So.
All right, Cody. Well, we kind of already touched base on this game a little bit. The Chiefs posted 44 on the Arizona Cardinals. What was your thoughts on this game? I didn't watch this game. I'll be honest about this. So what were your thoughts on this game if you saw a little bit of it at least?
So I didn't see that much other than highlights, but my biggest takeaway, and from what I was hearing from post-game shows, is the Cardinals didn't look like they were prepared at all. I mean, we have been talking about how Cliff Kingsbury is a coach that is probably a little in over his head, and he probably won't survive after this season. They come out hot early on, and then they cool off at the most important time of the season, which is exactly what they did last year. It continued on Sunday. And again, I know that the Chiefs are an elite offense, but you can't tell me that the Chiefs that went against a defense that actually put some resistance on them, shouldn't have put 40 on you, in my opinion. I've been hearing the Cardinals defense is a lot better than people think, this and that. I don't see it. I don't know. I know that Kyler Murray is a very good quarterback. He got paid well. I know that their offense with James Conner is, good, but they just looked so unprepared for a professional football game. It was crazy. The only team that I think played worse was Dallas. But Arizona did not look good. And I think that says more about Arizona than the Chiefs, because I think the Chiefs posting 44 doesn't sound like a big surprise. Arizona giving up 44 when they're supposed to be one of the top teams in the NFC, I think is the bigger storyline, in my opinion.
Yeah. Listen, the wrong quarterback got paid. Plain and simple. Yep. I was not there. I mean, Kyler Murray got paid like he's an elite quarterback. I'm not there to elite. I would say he's a great quarterback. I'm not sure if he will ever be an elite quarterback. I think he's great. I think he's a guy who can move the ball very well. But when the big game comes, he seems to fall apart every single time. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, is a quarterback that I would have paid. Yeah. And he's proven time and time again that he can get to the big games, and he doesn't fold personally. Mm-hmm. He seems to thrive in these big games. Just unfortunately, his team has not overcome those big games, I guess. So I'm very worried about Arizona from what I saw. Again, I think they're going to come back here in week 2 against the Raiders, and I think they are going to put up more than 7 points. I don't think they're going to only put up 7 again, but I do worry a little bit. It didn't look like James Conner was at all involved. They kind of missed Christian Kirk of a lot, know, which is kind of funny because we were all making a joke. Oh my God, I can't believe Christian Kirk was the first big time receiver getting a ton of money from the Jaguars. And listen, he had a pretty good game with the Jaguars, and the Cardinals didn't really have anyone to throw to.
Yeah.
So it's a little worrisome. The defense, I do think their secondary is a little bit better than what they showed, but Travis Kelce was absolutely torching them. Juju Smith got in on the action. Marquez Valdez-Scantling got in on the action. Hardman got in on the action. I mean, it seemed like everyone was having a field day. So I don't see that happening in week 2. I just, like I said, NFL is a strange game. They're gonna come back and play better, but this has got to be concerning. This has got to be a little concerning if you're a Cardinals fan, because if this continues, you paid your quarterback a lot of money for a whole lot of nothing. So that's what I would be really worried about. Yeah. All right, Cody. So the Niners lost to the Chicago Bears. Bears. Is a Jimmy G drama affecting Trey Lance's play?
I think so, only because here you have Kyle Shanahan that's come out and said Trey Lance is our guy, but yet Jimmy G is still there. So I don't know if that signals like, hey, just in case you get injured or just in case you suck enough to where we need Jimmy G to bail us out, we're going to hang on to him. And not only that, and I was telling you about this on Monday, but there is a ton of distraction when it comes to how do you feel that Jimmy G is still on the team or can potentially take your job. And it doesn't help that in week 1 in a terrible weathered game for football, Trey Lance doesn't have the greatest of throwing days. And, it was a bad day for the 49ers in general to where it's now sparking some of these rumors of this conversation. So I think it is a little distracting. I think Jimmy G needs to be traded to like Dallas. I'd even say the New York Giants, even though they won. I would say Jimmy G needs to be traded just so that way it gives Trey Lance a peace of mind to just know that like it's his job and he's not going to lose it or anything like that. Peyton Manning interviewed with Colin Cowherd on his podcast. Peyton Manning said that what Trey Lance needs is reps. It's really hard for him to get those reps though when you have somebody that's on your shoulder that could potentially take your job, and that doesn't give you a peace of mind to know that you're okay to make mistakes to learn from this, because his worry now is if I make a mistake to learn from that mistake, I'm going to have my opportunity taken away, and that's not something that's going to benefit him. So I think that the whole Jimmy G drama is a huge distraction for Trey Lance.
I do believe that it's kind of a distraction, but I'm going to give Trey Lance a pass on this game because I feel like this game was insane. I mean, this game they were basically playing at Wildwater Adventure Park for those, Fresno natives.
If you know.
Yeah. But it was, seriously, these guys were like trying to tackle. I saw one where it was Trey Lance. He ran like a little, I believe it was a triple option play. He's running to his left and he kind of slides down. And so to avoid hitting the quarterback, one of the defenders goes down or like kind of like jumps over him. And as he hits, he's still like going. He's still like sliding. You're like, holy cow. That guy was like going up and down and he still was sliding. That's how crazy that is. So, and I remember watching Trey Lance's last throw. It literally just slipped out of his hand. It was just insane. It was pouring too. So yeah. I'm going to give Trey Lance a pass on this. I don't think it was an easy game to plan. Now, Justin Fields, he looked a little bit better. But listen, Justin Fields is used to Chicago weather. He's starting to kind of learn how to play in that type of a stadium and that type of environment. But also, he wasn't out on the field when it was absolutely downpouring like Trey Lance did on his last drive. So I'm not that discouraged from Trey Lance. He ran 13 times and he ran well. I think it was like 82 yards or something. So he ran well. I didn't think he played all that bad. He couldn't complete a lot of passes because how could you? Debo was involved. Brandon Ayuk looked actually really good. To me, what it felt like was Trey Lance really had a better connection with Brandon Ayuk. And for you fantasy lovers, Brandon Ayuk, I really do think that there's going to be something to this Trey Lance, Brandon Ayuk thing if Lance can hold the quarterback position. However, I do think that Jimmy G being there does kind of affect him. Of course, how could it not? But this is what I think Kyle Shanahan wanted. I think he wanted to put pressure on Trey Lance, see if he's got it. Because if he doesn't, he's going to go right back to Jimmy Garoppolo, and they're going to get rid of Trey Lance, probably go to the Green Bay Packers because they're not going to go with Jordan Love. Probably move on to a different team after this. So that's kind of what I took from this game. I wasn't too concerned about Trey Lance. Just it was weird circumstances.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of Green Bay, the Vikings obviously had their way with Green Bay. So I want to know from you, Drew, how concerned are you with the Packers?
You like how I volleyed that up to you, by the way?
I love it. I
was
served
smooth
it perfectly.
Transition.
Communication,
smooth, baby.
Communication, and that was all by chemistry. So yeah, that was great.
It was smooth until I brought it up that it was smooth. now it's lost its big time niceness. Yeah, smoothness. Listen, the Packers. I know everyone wants to panic, but let me bring this up. The Aaron Rodgers last year struggled week 1, looked awful. Everyone was like, "This is what you get for trying to go for the Jeopardy job. This is what you get for, trying to be in the limelight, maybe talking about retirement. This is what you get, Aaron Rodgers." And then what did he do week 2, Cody? Absolutely went off. Mm-hmm. So here's my thing. They ran into a really good Minnesota Vikings team. I absolutely, and I will admit it 100%, underrated this Minnesota Vikings team. I didn't think that defense was there. But listen, I don't think that defense went through a gauntlet with the Packers in week 1, okay? A.J. Dillon had a really good game. Aaron Jones was okay. Randall Cobb was
missing.
Cobb. Yeah. Alan Lazard. Okay. Aaron Rodgers basically ghosted 2 rookie receivers because they kind of messed up in the first quarter. And it was like, okay, dude, they're rookies. Like, calm down. Mm-hmm. But listen, this is what we know as Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, to me, is the Russell Westbrook of the NFL. Aaron Rodgers is this incredible talent. And when he's by himself, he loves it, and he will excel. Okay, I don't have any doubt that he's going to be great still by the end of the year. But he is not going to have a team around him that is going to help him win. He may end up getting in the playoffs. I still think it's a possibility, but I don't think this team is ever going to amount to anything with Aaron Rodgers being kind of the way he is, to be honest. It was the same with Russell Westbrook in the Oklahoma City Thunder. He wanted to be by himself. They were good. They weren't great. And you kind of got the result that you anticipated you were going to get.
I just think that this was a game of karma for all the energy that Aaron Rodgers has put into the team. And what I mean by that is his play, in my opinion, reflected the chemistry of the team. It was poor. And the fact that he did not provide any leadership to help build up those young receivers, which he desperately needed, because the leading receivers were his 2 running backs. For fantasy owners, that's phenomenal. For football, that sucks. And I just think that, look, man, you can't expect to have a good team or players that trust you if you don't give time to them. And I know that there's some analysts that say, he treated Devontae Adams the same way. He just doesn't like rookie receivers. Hey, man, I got something to tell you. There's rookies that come in and out of the league all the time. I know that you understand that. You were a rookie once before. And so you understand this game better than anybody, that, you need to invest as much time in that relationship to build that up so you can gain trust with one another. And I think that this game was very telling of what internally is happening with the Packers. I think they're due for some sort of regression. I know I have them winning the division in the North. I would not be surprised if they finished like third in this division, just because I think that they're so dysfunctional with Aaron Rodgers getting paid, basically him coming out on psychedelics throughout the season, this and that and the other. Like, to me, this is like a free-for-all in this organization or on this team, in my opinion. And I think that we're going to start seeing more cracks in this team. And I may not be panicking on the Packers, but I think this is a huge representation of how this team is in terms of cohesion. And that's not great. Like, Seattle Seahawks look way more in connection with one another than the Packers did with each other. And Seattle's universally going to be recognized as one of the bottom teams, whereas the Packers are supposed to be the division winners, and yet the Packers have it looks like the most dysfunctional team compared to Seattle, which is mind-blowing in itself, in my opinion. So I may not be panicking on the Packers, but I think that this is more of a tell of things to come because of how this team operates with Aaron Rodgers and his nonchalant, I do what I want to do, and that's that, and, you know, whatever. I think this game represented all of that, and this is kind of like a reap what you sow and things to come for the future, in my opinion.
All right, Cody. Well, I want to talk about after week 1, going into week 2, which team in the NFC and AFC do you think will surprise people the most from week 1 to week 2?
I think in the NFC, and I think we've already talked about this, so I don't think it's much of a surprise, but I think the Eagles are going to surprise people as what we've said. I mean, I know for me, I have the Eagles as one of the higher end teams in that conference to come out of the playoffs. I don't think that there's any challenger outside of like maybe Tampa and the Rams that pose any sort of a major threat to the Eagles. And since they were already in the wild card last year, I think they're hungry to get back there. So I think the Eagles and the NFC for me. And in the AFC, I hate to say it, but I think the Ravens, man, like I may not be high on the Ravens because they don't have a whole lot of weapons. And I know that they played a Jets team who's kind of depleted, and it's the Jets. But they look pretty good for a team that didn't have a whole lot of preseason games together. Like Lamar didn't play in the preseason. He didn't look like he needed it, though. I think the Ravens are, for me, a team that are going to surprise people in the AFC. And if they can continue this with their receiving weapons, yeah, then they're going to look really, really good come postseason.
Not surprising to me, Cody.
Oh, whatever.
Pick them to win that division. You remember that? Called me crazy, Cody.
You couldn't even tell me who their other receiver was outside of Bateman.
And I did not
Still
care.
Can't.
And I did not care. Still don't. All right. To me, I'll start with the AFC. I'm actually going to say the Jaguars. Listen, they went down to the Commanders pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
So they were playing catch-up for most of the game. They caught up. They did not do a terrible job. There was a couple of mess-ups here and there, and that's to be expected. It's still, Doug Peterson's first time coaching in, 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
But I was encouraged with Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne, if he doesn't drop a touchdown, they could have won that game. Christian Kirk had a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
This is an encouraging team, and that defense is kind of scrappy. I mean, it's not great by all means, but I do think that this is going to be an interesting team moving forward. Do I think that they're going to sneak into a postseason spot? No, I think the AFC is too stacked for them to be able to sneak by, but I do think that they could potentially be somewhat in a running when we're talking about them in like week 12. I think that is not something that's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see, but I really like this Jaguars team. I really do. I'm still a little nervous because Trevor Lawrence, this is his second year. So you know how I am. Second year guys, I'm not too fond on. But I feel like this is kind of going to be technically his rookie year because he's with a new coach. So I'm kind of encouraged by that. So, and then the NFC team, I got to be honest, man, I might be on the train. The Panthers, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I am intrigued. Listen, that Browns defense is really good. That Browns offense, obviously, besides the quarterback right now, which I think Brissett is actually very underrated for what he does. But that offense, they came back and they had a couple of chances to go ahead, and they just went for two and they didn't make it. Christian McCaffrey, they really tried to not use him a ton. They wanted to try and save him, which I thought was smart. Baker Mayfield in the beginning struggled, but in the second half, he was starting to kind of go. He threw a bomb to Robbie Anderson. Listen, I don't think their defense is all that terrible like I've been told. I think their defense kind of held their own against a really good Browns offense. Listen, Amari Cooper was kind of non-existent that whole game. Now, again, it's kind of a new quarterback, new system type thing, so I'm not expecting Amari Cooper to be shut down consistently. But I was a little encouraged by the Panthers, got to be honest. I know both of the teams I picked lost, but I'm actually more encouraged by the way they lost than if they were going to win that game. So I really do like the Panthers, and I do really like the Jaguars. Do I think both of those teams will make playoffs? No, I do not. But I think they're not going to be easy wins by all means.
Right on. All right, Drew, it's your favorite segment. Happens weekly. You've been doing this now for God knows how many weeks in the season. Why don't you deliver us your top 5 power rankings in the MLB? I know everyone's on pins and needles waiting for it.
I know. I'm just kidding.
All right.
So, numero uno, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers. Do I need to say any more? No? All right, no. Cool. No, I mean, seriously, the Dodgers are starting to get healthy. I mean, obviously, minus Walker Buehler, they're starting to get healthy, which is scary because they've still been the best team in baseball with all these injuries. So I think their biggest concern is who in God's name are they going to start in a playoff series? Who are they going to give, pinch hits to? They have a tough thing on their hand because they have so many guys that's like, shoot, who do we play? So, but it's a good problem to have. So the Dodgers still my number one team in my opinion. Number 2, I have the Houston Astros. Consistent, man. I mean, absolutely consistent. Justin Verlander, I kind of think he's going to be the AL Cy Young Award winner. I know
over Shohei, you think?
Yeah, I do. I think he's going to get it over Shohei. Shohei has been nice, but Verlander's winning. And I think that's what you're going to have to put over Shohei, as much as, some people hate kind of that, how we were talking about Sandy Alcantara for the Marlins. Listen, to me, All-Star Game is a little different than season awards, because you kind of have to see the whole season to really get a grasp of who was the best. And in my opinion, I do think Justin Verlander has been the best because no one thought he was going to do this. I think with Shohei, we kind of all figured he's a good pitcher. He can do what he can do, and he's gonna get a lot of wins. He's gonna get a lot of strikeouts. And with Verlander, I think we weren't sure what he was going to look like, and he's been absolutely stellar. This is where I had the Mets over the Braves. I said it to you, Cody, and I said, you know what? Switch it back.
Yeah.
I still like the Braves. They lost the series to the Giants. They're going to be facing Philadelphia here coming up. So this is going to be a big series for the Braves. What I do like about the Braves, their pitching has been consistent, even though I didn't think it was that good. And they have been scoring a lot of runs. They lost the series to the Giants, but the game that they won against the Giants, they won 6-1. I'm going to double check that. 5-1, excuse me. So they can score runs at any time.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very dangerous offense. I do worry about their starting rotation. I think it's overrated, to be perfectly honest. But I think their bullpen has actually gotten a lot better. I think their bullpen is very strong. So this is why they're continuing to win games, because even when they're losing with their starting pitching, they still are able to find ways with their bullpen to keep them where they're at, and then their offense starts scoring runs. So I'm really encouraged by Atlanta. And what is the stat that I have been sticking with throughout all year long, Cody? Can you tell
differential.
me? Run differential. And where do you think they lie on the run differential radar here?
Braves?
The Braves.
I think I would say they are 5th.
They are 3rd.
Oh.
Sorry. They are 4th. Excuse me. They are 4th in run differential. I forgot about the Dodgers because I completed counting them out. The Dodgers are number 1. The Yankees are number 2. The Astros are number 3. And number 4 are the Atlanta Braves. And they're still in second place in the NL East, but only a game behind the Mets. I'm very encouraged by this team. I'm not going to panic that their record is lower than the Mets. I still like the Braves team over the Mets. Now I have number 4 is the New York Mets because I love their starting rotation.
Mm-hmm.
I think their bullpen is pretty strong. Their offense has been kind of shaky lately.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're number 5 in the league, so in run differential. So that is encouraging. But when the Braves are outscoring you, and they just got off of a series, and they're going to play another series against Pittsburgh tomorrow. But they're playing a series against Pittsburgh, and if you can't overcome the run differential over Atlanta against Pittsburgh, I'm starting to think that, and they went 5-5 the last 10 games. So they're not doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Lindor is a great hitter, but the other guys, Jeff McNeil has kind of been struggling lately. He's kind of a big momentum swing type of a guy. Pete Alonso has been still Pete Alonso, but they really miss Starling Marte, which is a little concerning for me, because if you have as much talent as you do, and Starling Marte is the one that is really derailing your team, I think you might have somewhat of an issue. I'm not saying Starling Marte is not a good player, but I am a little concerned because he's not their best player.
Right.
But that shows me that their base running is not great, and it tells me that they're not really getting the ball in spots where they can score more runs. So I'm a little concerned, not too much, but this is what I was worried about the New York Mets at the beginning of the year is, can they continue a little hot streak? And they're starting to kind of crack under that pressure. And so if I'm a Mets fan, I'm getting a little nervous now.
Yeah.
And my number 5 team, I have the New York Yankees, strictly because it seems like Toronto doesn't want to overtake the Yankees. They get close, and then they're like, nah, we won't do that. And then I watched the game today. It was Tampa Bay and Toronto. Good God, Kevin Gausman got absolutely rocked in this game. The batters saw a C, and when they swung, they saw ranked. It was cranked all day, baby. So Toronto doesn't want it. Tampa Bay kind of seems like they don't want it either, to be honest. Baltimore was kind of making a push, but I don't think they're going to have enough time to make up the difference that they have. So yeah, I'm not much to say about the Yankees. I mean, they're hurt big time right now. So the question is really, can they get healthy for the postseason?
And also, too, whoever they go against, are they going to be able to survive them? Because they could bounce in the NLDS, which is not good. So.
Yeah. Let's see. Who would they face right now if the season started? The Yankees would actually get a bye week, but they would either have to face the Tampa Bay Rays or the Cleveland Guardians. I really like the Guardians' rotation.
Yeah.
And their hitters are starting to kind of start going.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay Rays, it's a division rival. You have to always be concerned about having a division rival in the postseason. So right now, not too fond of the matchup for the Yankees if the season were to end today.
All right, give us a recap.
So, numero uno, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers. Number 2, I have the Houston Astros. I don't have anything for that. Sorry. Number 3, I have the Atlanta Braves. At number 4, the New York Mets. And number 5, the Dos Yankees.
Those damn
for Dodgers and Yankees. Sorry.
Those damn Yankees. Okay. So I know that you've been patiently waiting for this one, Drew. So I will let you describe it. But just a quick recap, there was some drama in Giants a couple of days ago, I believe, that involved Gabe Kapler and Littell. So, Drew, I'll let you take it from here, kind of give us some context and the situation, and then what your takeaway was from it.
Okay, so if you haven't seen this was a crazy incident that I think needed to be covered a little bit more. So Zach Littell is a relief pitcher. He kind of has been struggling this year. He's been up and down with injury. And to be perfectly honest, he was up and down with AAA and the majors. So he's kind of been, riding the coattails a little bit of possibly being let go. But he got lucky that the Giants needed more relief pitchers because he's just been that bad this year. So Zach Littell was on the mound, gives up 2 hits right away. Then he got the next guy to hit into a double play. So they turn the double play. Gabe Kapler, as he usually does, plays the numbers. So he pulls Littell, puts someone else in. So as he goes out to Zach Littell, he asks for the ball. Zach Littell kind of takes the baseball and kind of slams it into Kapler's hand, which you don't usually do. And Kapler is kind of like, he turns around and is kind of like, what are you doing? And then Zach Littell proceeded to say something to Kapler. Now, what he said, we really don't know. I don't think we'll ever find out unless, there's a documentary at some point. And
30 for 30.
And I would really appreciate that for whoever's out there to get that info. Yeah. Anyway, he said something to Gabe Kapler, and I have to praise Gabe Kapler for keeping it cool, because you could tell just by looking at his face, he was ready to throw hands. He was so pissed because the look that he gave Zach Littell was like, this motherfather is about to be choked out in my ripped arms now. He was like, he looked at him, but he stayed professional. He didn't show him up like Littell did on the mound at home in front of the fans. Kapler could have absolutely got away with it. And you know what? I don't think anyone would have blamed him. But he held his tongue. He waited. Picture came in. Then Kapler went into the dugout, and he made a beeline for Zach Littell and said, let's go. So both of them went into the hallway that goes to the clubhouse, obviously had a chat. Now, Kapler was asked about it after the game, and Kapler said, listen, it was heat of the moment. He's upset that I'm pulling him out after he did a great job of getting those 2 outs, and we really appreciate it. We're just trying to play the numbers and had to pull him. He didn't want to be pulled. It happens. We're all good. Well, apparently they weren't, because the very next day they sent Zach Littell to AAA, and I actually saw a story by one of the Giants writers that was kind of a big deal, because now he's all out of options. So either Zach Littell is on the team or he's not going to be on the team anymore. He cannot be optioned anymore to AAA or MLB. So kind of a big deal. We'll see what happens with that. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Zach Littell is no longer on the team. But a lot of people were upset about Gabe Kapler. They were saying, I can't believe Kapler is this soft. He actually sent him down to AAA. This is not Gabe Kapler's decision. I'm sure he went to the GM and said, hey, listen, this is what happened. He said this. I know it's kind of like he's upset. He doesn't want to get pulled. So I understand that. You got to make your decision, though. And obviously the GM thought it was that bad to where he was like, nah, we're not going to deal with that. He needs to go. And listen, a lot of people want to say it's just because of that incident. Littell was having a bad year.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a actual baseball there's actually a baseball move, smart move in this, but also I don't think that incident really helped his cause either. So it's unfortunate that it happened, but I got to give Gabe Kapler all the praise in the world. I thought he handled that tremendously because I think a lot of managers would have gone right at him right away, which they have every right to. But I think Gabe Kapler in the moment was like, listen, I cannot do this right now. If I go off on this kid, it's going to completely derail whatever we're doing because they were winning the game. That was the other thing. It wasn't like they were losing. So all credit to Gabe Kapler. I thought he handled it very professionally and had an absolute opportunity to completely just be petty about it in his post-game press conference. And he ended up saying, nah, it's the heat of the moment. He said what he said. I'm over it. It's not a big deal. Obviously, it was kind of a big deal. I think Gabe Kapler was probably still a little upset, but I don't think Kapler was like, we need to send him down. I think Kapler was more on the lines of, I'm not happy with it, but it's really your call. And I think the GM said that's a little too much.
Yeah. So I actually heard about it through TikTok. Obviously on our, Drew Code Sports Talk TikTok, I saw it come through the feed, and I saw somebody give an analysis on it who specializes in managing, and they pointed out some things is, just like what you mentioned, he held his composure after whatever was said, and then instead of having it out even in the dugout where, granted it was out of the line of action in terms of the game itself, he still took it into a private area. And then even during the post-game interview, you mentioned he just aired his grievances. But Gabe Kapler also mentioned, we are an open door policy kind of a clubhouse. You're free to speak your mind respectfully, and I'll listen. We'll talk about it. We'll work it out. And I think Liddell being optioned was more so the GM having Kapler's back, just because he wanted to recognize look, you're a fine kid. You made a poor decision, but we need to send a message to the rest of the clubhouse that we are in lockstep and we are in unison, and you just don't step out of line and you just don't do that. It's unprofessional. And Gabe Kapler made a great point that, your attitude also is included in your performance. It's not just what you do on the field. It's your attitude around the ball club. It's your attitude on the field, how you treat your teammates, your coaches and whatnot. It's all factored into that. So if you have a bad attitude, that kind of goes into bad performance, just because it doesn't matter at that point. You're not helping the cause. So I agree, man. Kudos to Kapler. I mean, that was an interesting situation. He handled it really well. It's really cool to see a Giants manager kind of handle that, because I can only imagine if it was another manager on the mound when that happened, that might even be a whole discussion in itself. But I found it very interesting and very, very cool to see a modern day managing situation to where how it can be done professionally and not when that kid had every right to be rang through the coals for doing that. Kapler kept it professional and strictly made it to where it's a one-on-one conversation and not aired it out in public. I thought kudos to him as well.
Yeah. And I kind of was starting to see a few Giants fans no one would ever do that to Bruce Bochy. Well, yeah, Bruce Bochy was a seasoned veteran by the time he was the Giants manager. Gabe Kapler, this is still kind of a new gig for him. Not necessarily, he's only been doing it for 3 years. No, I mean, he's been a manager for a few years now, but he's still kind of new. He's not that far away from a lot of these guys age-wise. Mm-hmm. So, and he's somewhat of a young manager. So, listen, there's going to be different respect for different guys. That's how baseball is. And guys who you are a little closer in age with, you're going to challenge a little bit more, and I think that's what happened with Littell. I think he felt a little more comfortable challenging Kapler than if it were Bochy, but to me that's kind of like, that makes sense, like you know. But I thought Kapler handled that very well, and you know, I'm a little discouraged because they sent him down to AAA. But listen, he wasn't having a great year anyway, so it's not that big of a loss. I was just kind of surprised that they did it so quickly. So, and I just kind of makes me wonder, like, what did he say? Because he pissed someone off.
Well, like I
don't
said,
think it was just Kapler.
Well, like I said, I think obviously I can't remember what the GM, what's the GM's name of the Giants? I'm forgetting.
Farhan Zaidi.
I think he saw that, and that was his way of representing that he has Kapler's back. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Kapler pushed for Littell to get optioned. I don't think he would have cared one way or the other. No. But I think that was the GM's way of just saying, "Hey, look, man, I got you. Like, that's inappropriate. We'll handle that. It makes sense anyways. It's a performance thing. He wasn't doing it on the field. That shouldn't happen regardless, of circumstances. So it's just best to just make this decision. And, I think that just shows even more leadership that, if there's a situation that happened, the house isn't divided. Everyone's kind of got the same respect for one another. And again, as what has been echoed in the Giants organization this whole season is you can come to us with whatever your grievances are, but in a respectful way. And once that line was crossed, then they made it a point to say, hey, that's not cool, and to stop it, to send a message to not only everybody else that we're like, this is our show, and so on and so forth, in my opinion. So, yeah.
All right, Cody. Well, I think that's it, man. We have done everything that we possibly could. My phone is trying to tell me that it's dying, so I have to get off anyway. So, but thank you guys so much. We do appreciate all the love and support. And we want you guys to continue that, to continue interacting with us. So go follow us on all the social media sites, which is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also TikTok. And go check our YouTube out, where we put out all the videos. A lot of the videos from TikTok we do also put on YouTube. And we also will put on strictly just YouTube videos on our YouTube page as well. So go subscribe and like and comment on all those videos. We always want to hear from you guys. Also, go to all the major podcast site, which is Spotify, iHeart, and Apple Podcasts. Like I said, subscribe and also rate and review our show. Anything and everything does help. 5-star, 1-star, whatever it is. We just want to get better, and that's all we want to do. We're not here to compromise who we are. We're not guys who are going to do these, I don't want to say hot takes, but, these takes where we really don't believe in. We're going to say how we actually feel, and we're going to leave it at that. So, and we try and do it respectfully because that's what we grew up like. Yeah. So, I feel like, Cody, I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but for the most part, I feel like our show has been pretty much the same in terms of how we present ourselves, how we come off when we're talking about certain sports and stuff. I don't think we've been too hot take-ish. And I think we've done that for however long we've been doing this. I think like 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we've been our same selves that whole time. So I just want to give us a little bit of kudos on that, because if you're looking for an authentic show, I think we're definitely that. Also, go check out our partners over at fnxfitness.com, where you can get 15% off your whole purchase by using our promo code. And speaking of which, I need to get my protein shake. Anyway, I've been waiting for that peanut butter cup, and in the meantime, I went and got like Costco, like muscle milk stuff. Oh, yeah. And so, which actually has been working out really well, but I was just like, man, I miss the peanut butter so much. so I've been waiting for that. So I think it's time for me to buy it. But anyway, go check out our partners over there, where they have all the workout gear, all the workout supplements you could ever want or need. They have a ton of supplements. I mean, they have like fish oils. They have protein bars. They have the protein shakes. They have like AM startup protein shakes. They have like designated PM protein. It's ridiculous. They have vegan protein shake. Ridiculous stuff. So go check them out. They have a ton of great stuff. Please, please, please go check them out. Man, like I said, I am going to be doing the Sanger West game tomorrow. So if you're interested at all, go check them out on YouTube. They do have a few videos, and you'll actually see one of the videos where they scored their first touchdown, which was an 85-yard touchdown, and I was so excited I got to call that. So go check that out on YouTube as well. And I'm going to send it off to Cody where he can finish this episode off.
All right. Well, thank you, Drew, voice of the now Hornets. Go Hornets. We're going to be rooting from them from now on now. If you guys are interested in getting started in a podcast, we highly recommend it. And by doing so, in the link in the episode description or in our bio, we actually have podcast equipment that you guys can purchase. It's from Amazon. So we have direct links to the mics that we use, the equipment that we use to set up and record with. So go check out that link in the description and go click on it. It's literally all you have to do is click on the link, put it in your cart, buy it. It's yours. Get your podcast started. Literally, you can have a podcast about anything. Drew and I did a Bay one years ago, which I kind of missed doing it because it was kind of different. But, we've been doing this sports one for a little bit longer, which is kind of like what we're used to doing. But if you're interested in getting the podcast game, you definitely need the gear and you need the software and all that stuff. Again, all the links are in our bio to get that and get that started. And so we just want to thank you guys so much for listening to us and keeping us on this journey. It's been a ton of fun. I appreciate Drew's kind words with how we don't compromise who we are on this show. And, I think that the term that we're looking for is we don't want to be controversial. We're not trying to be offensive. Our points or our takes in sports is just how we feel. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We're just saying what it is. And we're not trying to overstep our boundaries and offend anybody just because of the sake of they're an opposing team or they have a different viewpoint. It's not what we do. So if you guys are just looking for a chill, authentic sports show, that's us. So I just want to say I appreciate you, Drew. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. Again, don't forget to go subscribe, follow, like, share, all that good stuff on social media, YouTube, our podcast, yada, yada, yada. All the links are in the description in our link tree. I'll let everybody go. I know we're ready to move on to week 2 of the NFL. Don't forget to catch our next episode where we recap it, guys. So with that being said, we're signing off. Drew, have a fun Friday. Thank you, sir. Everybody else, have a good one.
Hornet Swarm. Let's ride.
And we're out. Oh, he doesn't see me. He doesn't see me.
Oh, sorry. What?
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to see how you'd react with that. You look so depressed.
Ugh.
I just ripped your heart out. What'd you do with it?